I'm very excited for this, Dr. Romani. This was our first ever MedCircle Live event, and
I love
I
it.
can see people joining us right now. Welcome.
Awesome.
And we posted one Instagram post on our Instagram, and I thought, 100 slots. That's plenty, and it was sold out in a couple hours and it was done. And so we had to
That's
open more
great.
slots. It's
Oh,
great. So I
good.
hope we get a lot of people.
I hope a lot of people get their questions answered because that's information's power. So
Yes. Well, as people start to log on, thank you for being here. I know a lot of you are brand new to MedCircle. Maybe you've seen a couple of Dr. Romani's videos on YouTube. Maybe you've gone to the MedCircle site and seen some stuff. But we're going to go in depth, and I want to make sure that the majority of our time today is spent answering your questions. The questions you have specifically related to personality disorders and how you can be a better supporter in your relationships, a better supporter for the individual who has a personality disorder or is living with one. And if you're someone living with a personality disorder, perhaps some self-help strategies from Dr. Romani on that as well. Well, we're almost at 86 people. I'm going to give people a couple minutes. I know it's I've got my computer is on a pile of sheets right now. So I've got my own little home set office. So we'll give people a little bit of time to get in here. Naomi, thank you so much. Dr. Romani, people are chatting in the chat. So people are very excited to see you. You guys are more than welcome to chat using the chat button at the bottom. If you have a question for Dr. Romani, however, use the Q&A button at the bottom. You can submit your question from there, and we'll get to as many as possible. I'm going to give them one more minute, Dr. Romani, but as people are coming in, what are you hoping to accomplish when we talk about personality disorders today?
Well, a couple of things is that, number one, as we know, and, my work is very much on narcissism in general, is that today I think is a special focus specifically on personality disorders. So we really are talking about people who may, you're seeing someone who might, a person you're in a relationship with, family member with, who has been getting therapy for this, because odds are they wouldn't know they have a personality disorder unless they've been formally diagnosed.
Right.
And if people do have questions like, what's the difference? How do I know if they have a disorder or not? I'll talk about that. But I think that what ends up happening is that personality disorders are very unique in the relationship space because there's such a risk of people personalizing what happens in this. And, just as like, imagine you were in a relationship with somebody who was living with a substance use disorder. Okay.
Yep.
So they may wake up or not, wake up very late and be very irritable until they're using again. A lot of people wouldn't personalize that irritability. They say, oh, they're an addict. They got to get their drugs and they're not getting their drug. And they wouldn't blame themselves. Interestingly, with the personality disorders, people blame themselves when they're in those relationships. Because again, personality disorders by definition, particularly the ones, I shouldn't say all, the ones that the narcissistic, borderline, those kinds of personality disorders have associated with them a fair amount of interpersonal instability. Interestingly, the other people in those relationships, the person who may not have the personality disorder tends to blame themselves. And so that piece of it is why I want people to understand the boundary between you and them, what responsibility lies with them, and to be very realistic about what it is you can do and how to take good care of yourself in one of these relationships so you can be there with someone but not get lost in the relationship and not get harmed by it, quite frankly.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm going to turn off my air conditioning since it's a little loud. And I think we have a lot of people in our first live event. So excited. I woke up like it was Christmas today. Thank you for putting in your questions. There's a Q&A box on the bottom. Put in your questions there. And if you feel so inspired right now, I'm going to do it. Dr. Romani, you can, you cannot, whatever you want. I am going to just take a picture of myself and put it on social media. One thing that MedCircle is doing, of course.
Take care of the screen.
I'm just going to do one of these, like a selfie. Yeah.
I'm going to take it of the screen because I don't have such capabilities.
There you go. Yeah,
you always don't quite understand how limited I am. And look, it'll even have the words then. See?
There. I'll get. I
guess I'll try that other thing you just told me to do, but that just feels like a lot to me. I look a little crazy, but my kids would say, why don't you know how to do this? But there we go. All right. I got it.
Mental health can be a personal journey. It can be one you share with family and friends. I by no means want to pressure anybody to share what they're doing here today. But for those of you who do feel comfortable sharing that you took time out of your day today to get educated on mental health, that is a really courageous and proud thing to share, I think. So if you feel strongly about that, tag me, tag Dr. Ramani, tag MedCircle, and we'll connect on social media after this. But let's get into this discussion about personality disorders. What types of relationship issues do you see in your practice, Dr. Ramani, treating personality disorders in regards to how that affects the relationship? You can watch this full class for free when you provide your email address below. Plus, I'll send you additional classes and series on personality disorders that I'm sure you'll find valuable and insightful.
So what I work predominantly with survivors of relationships, people who are in relationships, either, if not full-blown personality disorders, with relatively difficult personality patterns. And you know, these are often high conflict, antagonistic, dysregulated, manipulative kinds of relationships. And many people have been in these relationships for years and have been second guessing themselves and been confused and assuming it was them and wondering what they're doing wrong for years. My goal has often been in working with clients is to educate them about these patterns, because sometimes that actually clears up most of the other, saying, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. I thought I was doing something wrong. Especially when, and again, I talk about this word a lot, so we might as well get it out, you know, right in the beginning, so I'll use it, is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a classical part of any relationship with somebody who has a lot of personality stuff going on. And gaslighting is the denial of another person's reality. It can take several forms, including literally denying reality. I never said that. I never did that. And yet you literally have the text message in your hand where they said that. It might be things like, you're being too sensitive. You have no right to feel that way. You know, you're the one who has a problem. You know, it's definitely, it's a deflection. They'll minimize it. You know, there's, you're making too big a deal about this. And that tends to be the landscape of a relationship with somebody who has really personality issues, particularly narcissistic personality issues. And so it's helping clear the air and help them understand that's what gaslighting is. Your reality is being played with. That's why you're so confused. And for most people, Kyle, these are what we call legacy issues. They're issues that started in childhood. They either had one or two narcissistic or other high conflict, difficult personality parents. And that can set a person up for thinking this kind of relationship manipulation is normal. In fact, abuse equals love, the trauma bonded kind of a situation. So it's helping people understand that history. In addition, people who do have histories of trauma are actually more vulnerable to entering these relationships with people with high conflict personalities and getting stuck in them, as though this is what love is supposed to be, confusing and upside down, and I feel bad about myself and all of that. Like, all of those things are almost equated in this toxic stew of love. It's helping a person create a new paradigm of what a loving relationship is supposed to look like.
When we talk about personality disorders on MedCircle, narcissism seems to be the most sought out topic of the personality disorders. After that, we have borderline personality disorder. Very briefly, what is that?
Which one, narcissism or borderline personality?
BPD, borderline.
Okay, so borderline personality disorder is a personality disorder characterized by instability. Instability in emotion, instability in mood, instability in behavior, and instability in relationships. The person experiencing borderline personality disorder really, really suffers with a sense of internal chaos almost at all times. And all of this is very much fueled by a chronic fear of abandonment. In classical, pure borderline personality disorder, the person is not only terrified of abandonment, but really often very much devalues themselves. There's a lot of despair in this. So there's the assumption of, I'm no good, I'm worthless. Of course, people are going to leave me. What do I need to do to keep them close? And because of that, there can sometimes be a sort of desperation in their communication, and that can put other people off. Many people may feel manipulated in these relationships, and it's not, more often than not, it's not intentional on the part of somebody with pure borderline personality disorder, in the sense that they don't know how to appropriately reach out to someone, because imagine they're in a sense of panic. And that's the best way I can describe it. A person with borderline personality disorder often feels so much panic that they feel like they're drowning. So when they go to be with their supporter, the supporter feels like they're going to go down with them, although they're trying to rescue them from drowning. Anyone knows that. It's sort of drowning 101 is sort of like you have to get a person in a kind of a hold and get them out of danger. But the borderline individual, the person with that personality disorder, often feels like they're drowning, and they feel panicked, and they feel in a chronic sense of psychological pain. It's an incredibly, incredibly difficult pattern and difficult legacy to carry. So it can be very confusing for supporters of a person with borderline personality.
Dr. Ramani has a few series on borderline personality disorder at MedCircle. At the end of this stream, if you're watching live, I'm going to provide some discount codes if you do not have a MedCircle membership, so you can access those series and more. If you're watching this on replay, you can fast forward if you want to get there. Otherwise, it'll be at the end of this video. I want to go through avoidant personality, Dr. Ramani, paranoid personality, and obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And could you talk about very briefly what those are, and maybe some of the relationship struggles that can come with those disorders?
So those are all very different kinds of personality disorders. I most often speak about, for example, narcissistic personality disorder, a little less about borderline, but narcissistic and borderline personality sort of live in the same section of the diagnostic world. Again, very much characterized by, instability, dysregulation, that sort of thing. When we talk about paranoid personality, we're in a different area of sort of the personality and the personality disorder kind of a world. People with paranoid personality disorder literally do always feel like people are out to get them, that people are watching them, people are talking about them. They're very suspicious. They're very mistrustful to a degree that it's getting in the way of being able to establish any kind of meaningful relationship, collaboration, anything like that with anyone. You could imagine a relationship with somebody who has paranoid personality disorder. It's all but impossible. The person with paranoid personality will seem very almost victimized. They always feel people are out to get them. And as a result, people can experience them as very combative and oppositional. Like, they're out to get me, and they're talking about me, or you're out to get me, and your friends are out to get me. And you'll feel like, I can't. I mean, it's almost like it feels impossible to integrate a person with that kind of personality into your life. And as you can imagine, close relationships are not going to be the strong suit of someone with paranoid personality. My guess is actually that people may run into this more in a family member. So in other words, not a relationship that they chose, but a relationship with someone who's already built into their life, like a sibling or potentially a parent. That lives in the part of the personality disorder world that almost tends to be a little bit more odd and unusual behavior that almost feels on the low end of psychotic, but it's not. It's just, again, it's this incredible suspiciousness. What's interesting is that suspiciousness and almost paranoid suspiciousness can carry through narcissistic personality. So some people might be saying, how do I know the difference between the two? It can be because the person with paranoid personality won't have the grandiosity, the entitlement. They won't have those things, okay? But many people with narcissistic personality styles or narcissistic personality disorder can be incredibly sensitive to criticism to a level that it looks paranoid. And because they're so insecure, people with narcissism are so insecure, they kind of think everyone's out to get them, out to steal their ideas, out like they're like, they literally want people to sign non-disclosure agreements when they walk in their front door. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is going out to dinner. And so there's that's also seen in narcissistic personality too. Now, when we jump the rails to these other two disorders you're talking about, avoidant personality and obsessive compulsive personality. Avoidant personality disorder is more of an anxious presenting personality style. People with avoidant personality disorder actually look a lot like they have another kind of mental illness called social anxiety disorder. People with avoidant personality very much want to be with other people, but they're so afraid of negative scrutiny, that they're going to look foolish, that people are going to criticize them, they're so afraid of that that they either don't put themselves into a social realm or they avoid the situations altogether, thus the name avoidant. But the trick, and I don't like the name of that, because actually people with avoidant personality want to spend time with other people, but they feel so socially unskilled that they hold back. Or when they do engage, there's a sort of an awkwardness about it, and they may even agree to do things that they're not necessarily comfortable with, just so they feel like they could fit in. People with avoidant personality may also have a greater risk, for example, of using alcohol to kind of lubricate social situations so they feel a little bit looser and more comfortable. So that's, and now for people with avoidant personality, relationships can be difficult, but I don't think impossible.
Don't let your mental health education stop now. Provide your email address below and continue watching the rest of this class. Plus, I'll send you another class on personality disorders that you can watch for free. And each week, I'll send you free mental health resources and videos if you'd like them. You can opt out anytime.